What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast Podcast. Last time I brought you Chase, we talked some soccer. Now it's back to Griffin. We're talking NBA draft. Griffin, how are we doing today?
We're doing great, Liam. How are you?
Doing just fine. Just got back from work a little bit ago, but the grind never stops. NBA draft is coming sooner than you think in the coming days. I believe from today, the 12th, we are 10 days away from the NBA draft. Excited, hopefully, to get that live stream going. I haven't got the work schedule yet, but we will be making sure we're here for that. I
Oh
do
yeah,
not
I need to get that off.
we are making sure that happens. So, without further ado, hey, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You want to stick along for the stuff coming along, and let's just jump straight into it. So, instead of doing a traditional mock draft today, we're going to be bringing you some questions. Griffin and I will be answering them, and I want to know you guys' thoughts as well. So, let's start off this first question of the episode. Who is your favorite prospect, Griffin, in this class that is not getting enough respect from the public?
To me, I mean, respect is a broad term, you know what I'm saying? So I have two answers here, kind of depending on what respect means. First off, lottery respect to me, uh, this is Anthony Black. A lot of the big boards of guys that I respect have him kind of in the 7 to 10 area. And if you're an avid Coast to Coast watcher and listener, you'll know I have him at 4. So I'm much higher on him. I just think I'm such a big fan of big point guards, big and long point guards. And he's an incredibly willing defender. I think he makes winning basketball plays. He has a high basketball IQ, and he does have a different jump shot. Let's just say that. But I feel like with some tweaks here and there, he could really become at least a decent shooter in this league. But one guy outside of the lottery that I kind of have my eyes on, just because of who he plays with, it kind of just enraptures the whole media narrative around that team, which is Victor Wembanyama's teammate. Liam, double check me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Bilal Koulibaly.
Yes.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Okay. I think if he pans out, he could be really good. Really strong, like wing 3 and D guy. I think when we're looking back, like this could be a guy who could pop out at summer league, pop off his first year in the NBA and be like, why didn't we really see him? He's been kind of a late riser in some people's eyes, but I really think he could be looking back as a guy who we probably should have taken in the lottery. Liam, what about you?
And hey, summer league coverage, we might have that.
Oh,
We might have that.
summer league coverage. We will be there coast to coast. We'll be covering that shit.
Indeed,
Promise.
indeed. All right. So in terms of my guys, I stuck with guys outside of the lottery that I think are going to be maybe not even just good role players, but very good stars potentially in this league. One of the guys I've been high on ever since I've watched him, Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine. This is this year's Jalen Williams from this class. He will not get the draft, notability that Jalen Williams got being in the lottery, but this guy, he's a great slasher. I'll throw some tape up on the screen as well. He's got long wingspan. He's only 20 years old. He's barely older than the Thompson twins. If you don't know, the Thompson twins are 20, they'll be 20 and a half by the time they're drafted, which I didn't know till I looked at today. But Maxwell Lewis, he's also got a great handle. I think he's going to be able to develop into an average to a really above average shot creator at his position. His defense isn't great, but he's got a 7-foot wingspan at 6'7" and a half. Has the build and athleticism to be great. Could there is a little bit of Jalen Williams in his game. He could be potentially, I think he can go as high as like Chris Middleton type of player that can be a true like 2B, 2A kind of guy on like a contending team. And then my second pick is Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State, another guy that is really just, a good offensive bucket getter. I think he honestly might be a better version than Grady Dick at the end of the day. That might be a hot take, but I've seen a lot of people really high on this guy. Shot creator. He shoots 40% from 3 at Ohio State this past year, the main scorer for that team. I think he could surprise some, and especially with the way the NBA is going nowadays, offense is a premium, and he can be a guy that can be a bucket getter for your team. Like he could be, a poor man's like DeMar DeRozan with a jump shot. Like like a solid like 16-point a game guy. Would not be surprised to see that in a couple of years. Now we're moving on. Which team needs to ace this draft the most, Griffin?
To me, a couple teams came to mind because I do think this is a big draft for certain teams. Some teams can afford to miss because, depending on their situation and whatnot. But three teams came to mind for me: Charlotte, Portland, and Washington, all for different reasons. Charlotte really needs to solidify a star alongside LaMelo to drag them out of the depths of NBA hell, basically. Like, they've just been bad for so long. And if one of these guys can get a guy like a superstar caliber guy alongside LaMelo, they could pull themselves out of mediocrity. So I think this is a big, big draft. They cannot miss. They need this pick to hit. Portland is at a crossroads of what they want. They really need to basically just commit if they want to contend or if they want to rebuild. They need to do that now, because if they, keep Dame but also keep this pick, or if they keep Dame and keep this pick, like, you're really just dividing the two eras, and I think you need to commit. And there's a similar vibe going on for me in Washington with Bradley Beal, to a lesser extent just because of where they're picking. But I think Washington also needs to hit this draft if they want to move on to the next era, because if we're being honest with both these teams, you're not winning a championship right now. So
Yeah.
what about you, Liam?
Yeah, kind of going back to the Trailblazers point, I think it's interesting. Apparently, it could be smokescreen for all we know. It's coming out that Charlotte's having a heavy favoritism towards Brandon Miller for the number 2 pick. I'm not on the side where I think it's catastrophic, where it's like if they don't take Scoot. I always liked Brandon Miller. I
agree.
It's a situation. Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm on my big board, I have Scoot and Brandon on the same tier. And if they like him, I don't hate the pick. It's just, we'll see based on off the court stuff. Like, he may be great in the interview, and they've explained away a lot of the stuff that we just don't know. And he could be a great fit there, but Scoot to me seems like the safer pick right now. And considering I feel like I've just watched a lot more of him and I'm just a little bit higher on him, but I don't think he's necessarily bad. But going back to what you were saying about smoke screens, there's definitely, I think that report was dropped by Portland, to be honest. Conspiracy hat on.
Exactly. But hey, I think if Portland, sees Brandon Miller go 2, don't hesitate, trade Dame. Take the best package you can get and trade Dame. Build a Scoot. Stay at the timeline of Simons and Sharp and
and Scoot. That what a solid core that would be, and you get the pieces from a Dame trade, like that sets you up beautifully. I don't get the contending angle, to be honest.
Exactly, because Jeremy Grant's definitely leaving in free agency. I'm not sure where Nurkic is. I think he could be an expiring contract at this point.
Yeah, I'm not super certain where his contract is, but even still, like, he's so injury prone at this point.
He's not expiring. He's going into a second of a 4-year deal. So put him in that game package, dump him off.
Yeah, move him as well.
Yeah, I would like to see him I know the Knicks would. The Knicks can't do it anymore, I feel like, because now you got Brunson. But I would have loved that to see like Barrett. The Knicks are probably the prime team to make. They have a lot of assets that they can cobble together to make a move for a superstar. Whether that's Dame or not is up. And I don't understand the Heat thing though, because I wouldn't want to see. Why would Portland want to do that? Because Tyler Hero has to be the main piece. And that's just another guard to add to a rotation.
Yeah. No, it would have to be a different team.
Hey,
I don't see Miami at all.
I know you. No one wants a guard rotation. Goran Dragic, Eric Bledsoe, and Isaiah Thomas. No one wants a 3-guard point guard rotation.
Yeah. Hey, reports come out of Phoenix, though.
Reports always coming out of Phoenix. But sorry to sidetrack there. Team I think these aces drafted the most is the Utah Jazz. They took a gamble. They realized we're not going to win with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Instead of keeping one, let's trade both. They did that last offseason. Walked away with Lauri Markkanen. A way too many amount of picks for a guy in Rudy Gobert. But, now they are where they are. picking number 9 overall. They got 3 total first round draft picks. They need a hit on 2 for 3. And when I mean that, they need to get like 2 like solid, like starter, like borderline starter players that they can add to their team. And if not, they go 1 for 3. It has to be a perennial all-star kind of guy they get at 9. Realistically, that's where they get the best guy. That's what I think. There's tons of talent at number 9. They're going to have a luxury if the draft goes in their favor. If they can get a guy like Taylor Hendricks, to play some 3-4 hybrid and then go and get a Jalen Hood-Schifino or a Cason Wallace or a Nick Smith at 16. That's the goal, for Danny Ainge and this Utah staff. But we don't
but sorry to step on your toes there, but because of their assets, they're also a trade up contender. If they really like someone in this draft, they can kind of go for it, because I think kind of the last couple of years of OKC, if they've taught us anything, just because of the amount of draft capital that they have, they can afford to take big swings and miss just because of how much draft capital they've accumulated. But yeah, like Utah for sure. Big mover and shaker this year.
Yeah, they need to ace this draft, in my opinion, because they need that like guard perimeter scoring. I mean, they have 2 foundational pieces in the front court, so they get that backcourt help. Moving on, a team that I'm very fond of course, the Golden State Warriors, and another team that is in my backyard essentially at this point. The Miami Heat. 2 teams that are going to be having middle of the first round draft picks going in. The Suns probably wish they had that pick at 21, 22, wherever it is, but different situation. Do you think the Warriors and Heat should go for potential instant impact? Maybe one goes for the other. What are your thoughts with this question?
For me, I think my mind leans for both for instant impact. I think when you have a title window, you need to strike, no matter how far off these teams might be, just because of next season, who knows what's going to happen. But I think drafting a player in this position, because this draft is fairly decent. You could draft someone who could be a Christian Braun-esque player, like the Nuggets had this year, who can contribute in their first year, come off the bench, be a contributor. I think that's important for a playoff team in this position. The Warriors, I think, probably are a little gun shy, to be honest, of going for the just all out potential players, just because of how, Kuminga, Wiseman, for a lesser extent, Moody has gone for them. So I think there for sure should be an instant impact. I think the Heat and the Heat culture and stuff, they can afford to take a risk on on a potential player. But just because of where they're at right now, I think, another solid role player who could contribute right away wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah, I mean, for the Warriors, I'm on the same boat. It's got to be an instant impact. It's interesting situation now. We lose our general manager, a guy that we trusted, and unfortunately things did not go his way in these last couple of drafts. He was able to have a foundation of Stephen Clay when he joined, and then brought in the other pieces, but kind of ever since that, it's been lackluster in Golden State in terms of draft production. Whoever's in charge for this draft, they're not going to have a GM, in 10 days. That's going to be new. They'll be going with their current group of scouts and, Steve Kerr, of his decisions. It's got to be an instant back guy. I love Maxwell Lewis here, assuming that Deontay DiVincenzo is not a guy that you can bring back given his performance. Now the whole taxpayer minimum, all that stuff going out the window. I like a guy like Maxwell Lewis, Colby Jones from Xavier, and Chris Murray, brother of Keegan Murray, has a similar game to his brother to a lesser extent. And the only guy that I would take a shot on that is, not a older guy, or, someone that we know has like instant like floor potential, is a Jet Howard. I think Jet Howard could be great in this system, a 6'8" 3-point shooter. You could put him in a lineup with, Dre at the 5, Curry, assuming Clay, Wiggins still there. Like, I think that could be a great lineup if, you see Jet Howard take those steps this year. But I think you could put a Maxwell Lewis in that lineup, a Colby Jones, a Chris Murray, they could do the same role. And then with the Heat, I think they should go potential here. Outside of Jovic and, Hero, who's probably kind of hit his ceiling at this point. There's not a lot of potential on this team. And I know you were just talking about it, and I agreed to the point that, you don't want to mix, eras. But at the end of the day, I think, maybe a guy like I like Jet Howard here. That was one of the mock picks I had, or even Bryce Sensabaugh, to be that eventual Jimmy Butler replacement. He's not going to play forever. We've seen, and unfortunately, a decline in his game these last, from the first series of the playoffs all the way to the finals. At the time of recording, I think it's 45 minutes till tip off. We'll see if he can beat those allegations, because he's not been good. He's been declining ever since that Milwaukee series. So those are my takes for the Heat and the Warriors. And now a team that you would like to see trade up in this draft, Griffin. I would love to know your thoughts on this. I got 2 picks myself, and I want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little with the Jazz, but I also have another team kind of in a similar position with Orlando. It feels like they're 2 to 3 really good moves away from like not only being a playoff team, but possibly contending. Like if they could put a really nice package together, they could get a legitimate star in Orlando. And I think they are a contender. I was seeing I don't know if this was like legitimate or not, but like packaging 6 and 11 future picks and like vaults for either like 2 or 3. I was seeing that they could try to get try to get up and get Scoot if they really wanted to, or trade that for an existing star already. And kind of touched on Washington and Portland already. I want them to make a decision about what their future is going to be. What about you?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think Brandon Miller would be great on that Magic team. They need shooting. Then you figure out what you're going to do with the point guard position. Maybe you just I know he might come back to Phoenix, but Chris Paul is going to be very sought out.
No, Chris Paul. Yeah, if Chris Paul isn't waived and not stretched, so he's waived and re-signed by the Suns, because that's the only way he's coming back to Phoenix. He's not coming back for his contract, what it is right now. If he leaves, Orlando and San Antonio, teams like that would be perfect for Chris Paul.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a lot, especially when you don't need to pay $40 million for him. Yeah, that's going to make a lot of sense. For my teams, I think Brooklyn should strike while the iron's hot. You have 21, 22. See if you can go up and even just get like the 15 or something like that. I think being able to get like a late lotto, or, right after that lottery in that range, like they might be able to go get themselves a real point guard. They don't have a true that Ross. I mean, don't tell me Spencer Dinwiddie's a point guard. Like Ben Simmons, man, he needs to get off my university. He keeps working out at Miami. We don't want Simmons. Go somewhere else. But I think the Nets could strike with iron hot with those 21, 22, package them together. Like that's going to be, depending on how the draft board falls when you're around, 13 to 15, like teams could say like, wow, those are 2 really valuable picks, especially if you're a team, like the Pelicans, where truly, I mean, all you really need is Zion to come back in full form, which that's a whole podcast going on with him, bro. That draft class is insane. But like the Pelicans, we don't need this top 14 pick. Let's trade it. Let's get 21, 22, get, an instant impact guy, maybe another, guy that can, potentially challenge for a starting role down the line. And then my other team is Atlanta. I think Atlanta should seriously shake things up. I know there's talks of DeJounte Murray getting moved. No, you do not invest that much in a guy and trade him after 1 year. He didn't even.
Atlanta needs to make a move, though, a major move.
Yes, I think you move. I wouldn't be mad if you traded John Collins and Clint Capella this offseason. Invest in AJ Griffin, invest in Jalen Johnson, and trade their pick, and trade a starter. Maybe even a DeAndre Hunter, which I don't think he's got much all of a ceiling left to his game. And, get to the top 10, see if you can go get, a Taylor Hendricks to, complement with an Onyeka Okongwu or something along the lines of that. They have to be aggressive this offseason. They got Quinn Snyder now, build a team around them and cater to Trae Young. You are not going to be able to move off of Trae Young after a while where that contract is where it's at. And you could say, oh, he's not this, he's not that. If you build a team around him, you can make a good run. And we saw that a couple of years ago. They made the Eastern Conference Finals. They took some games off the Bucks, who ended up winning the championship that year. Regardless of what you want to say, if it was fraud or not.
Yeah, a team completely catered to Trae Young, like peak Trae Young, with like solid guys around him, is a contending championship contender. I believe that 100%. And yeah, they need to make a move because what they're doing right now is just not working.
Because he can be a 1A, and then you have your 1B, or he's a 1 and you have like a 2A and a 2B that are really strong.
Yeah.
At the end of the
And
day, yeah.
I really agree with you on the DeJounte Murray. Like maybe if it's not working at the trade deadline, do something then, but not right now. Not right now. Way
Yeah,
too early.
You traded a lot to San Antonio for that, so
Yeah.
don't want to backfire. Who do you think falls in this draft class that is, like could people are really like high on, or like mock them decently high, or what's in it?
Because I'm pretty high on a lot of the lottery guys, but the guys that we've talked about that we have major issues on, the Thompson twins, are the guys who I think could fall. I think a lot's been coming out. I don't know how much of this is smoke or anything, or just guys trying to get them to where they'd fall to their team a little bit so they could pick them. But the talk of overtime elites, them being 20, playing against 16, 17-year-olds, not really shooting super great. Like, I mean, shooting horribly, like if we're going to be honest, and not showing like that domination that you'd want to see when you're playing against guys that are 4 years younger in a league that has basically no one else in it. I think is pretty concerning. I don't see them falling past like floor 12. But I could see, people for the longest time have had them from like the 4 to 6 range. I could see them dropping to 10 or 12 or something like that, just because of a lot of the question marks that they've been having. Beyond that, though, I couldn't really think of anybody lottery wise that has like super big red flags, unless there was like a Laramie Tunsil incident on draft night or something like that.
Yeah, I think a guy that could have been this answer is Keontae George, but I feel like Jamal Murray.
I feel like yeah. And also, I feel like he's also fallen a lot over the months in the mocks and in the big boards. Like he started out like the season at maybe like 7 or 8, and now at the mock I'm looking at, he's 14 now. So
yeah, I'd say everything like almost south of 9 is like, I don't think we could guess what would happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's gonna be fun to watch when the draft is there. Yeah, I had the Thompson twins. I would almost go as far as guaranteeing one of them falls outside the top 8. And I know that's not like crazy to say. One of them will. And it might be Amen, even though
I could see Amen falling because a lot of people have liked the progress that Asar's been making with his jump shot, it seems like. So I don't know.
And people were saying that like the Blazers might take Amen, which is like, that's crazy.
That's crazy. There's no fucking way. This is a Griffin guarantee right now. That is not happening. That is not happening.
Nah, it would just be so they could say they have Shaden Sharp and Ahmed Thompson, like the most athletic.
Why would you do that?
That's literally all they would have it for. Yeah, no. And then do you have a player in mind you believe will not pan out, that you do not think is as good as advertised?
Again, I hate to pile on to these guys, bro, but like it's the Thompson twins. I think probably just one of them won't pan out. I like to believe in people, and I like to think, fit will play a big role in these guys' development. So I think it really is going to depend where they fall. But just right now, they're question marks. I feel like we've kind of seen shades of this in the past with guys like Emmanuel Mudiay or Frank Ntilikina or Killian Hayes, where they're big athletic guards, but they can't shoot at all. And it's been really their development and their just like consistency in the NBA has been just contingent on their ability to shoot. And none of these guys really develop the shot. And I think if the Thompson twins can't really develop a shot, I don't know how successful they're going to be in a half court offense. Like they can jump out of the gym with the best of them, but how are they going to fit into a modern NBA system where everybody's jacking threes? Like, yeah. That's my biggest question mark. And I honestly think if I was a betting man, I think one of them probably won't succeed.
Yeah. I don't know the exact like general consensus on Grady Dick. but I don't know if he's going to be as great, like as
No,
a top 10.
yeah, I think if you're picking in the lottery, I don't see him being like a star in the league, like maybe a high end role player. I don't know what I don't I agree with you. Like I don't know what people's general consensus is regarding his potential, his upside. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he's not like a shot creator. Like he could realistically be a Duncan Robinson, Max Strus. I
Yeah.
put down my notes. Like he is going to be a good shooter unless it gets to his head. But like he doesn't do anything like you know like above average else NBA wise that he projects as. Like
Uh-huh.
I've had very interesting opinions on him throughout looking at him, and I don't like he's not a real crazy athlete. Like
His defense is not really there. Like it's not super great. Like I agree with you. I think if his shot doesn't translate, like I don't I agree with you.
yeah, and he's what's it called? His wingspan, it's 6'8" and he's 6'7".
I was watching tape today of Anthony Black guarding him in the tournament today. Like Anthony Black was kind of clamping him up, like a guy with that length and wingspan guarding him. Like I don't know, and that's going to be a lot of guys in the NBA who have that frame who's guarding him. I don't know. I agree with you. I agree with
Yeah,
you.
and while you're talking about that, I have it pulled up. I mean, obviously Howard's a lot different, but they played Howard in the first round. He put 19 and 11 up, shooting 7 for 13. He follows it up against Kansas, 7 points, 7 rebounds, 3 for 9 from the field. Like that's
Yeah.
I mean, of course he's facing a premier defensive prospect, but still, like he's
Hmm.
limited in his game. It's
Yeah. I
uh,
wonder if that's just because he was the primary threat and they threw everything they had at him, or
he's
it
not the best player
was
on his team. Jalen Wilson
yeah.
was. So, I mean, it's interesting to see. I think if you draft him from the pure aspect that like he's a Duncan Robinson, Max Strus guy for you, then he's worth it.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I agree. Like if he's drafted to like a more of a contending team, I could see it panning out more. But yeah, I don't. If that's your big draft selection of the night, like
yeah.
I don't really see that.
Like if the Mavericks shit their season to take Grady Dick at number 10, I would be appalled.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
yeah. Any other tidbits before we close it out here?
Nothing really. I'm just really excited for this draft. I looked at my work schedule and I had that day off, so
We'll
it's
make
gonna
sure
be
I get.
exciting. It's
We'll make
gonna
sure
be
I get.
exciting.
But hey, we'll maybe we drop our big board this weekend. We'll see. Father's Day weekend. We might just drop it on the Instagram, the Twitter. We'll let you guys see that because that's some big stuff you got to watch out for. Maybe our personal ones. We'll see. But
Mhm.
we don't know if we'll be back. We might be back to you early next week, right before our last mock draft, after all the information we've gathered. But you'll definitely see us on draft night one way or another. We'll be on here.
Definitely.
We might be doing all 2 rounds. It depends on how we.
Oh, oh, Leo.
We will see. We will see. But
Yeah.
as always, Coast to Coast Podcast signing out. Peace.